Do you ever stop to wonder if you're really in control? Be honest. You wake up, and what's the first thing you do? Probably grab your phone. You start scrolling, looking for something new, something exciting, something to keep you from feeling bored. Then comes the coffee, maybe while watching a short video, listening to a song, or checking the latest memes. And on your way to work or school, you keep consuming more videos, more podcasts, more social media, more noise. And then for a brief moment, there's silence. No distractions, no noise, just stillness. But how does that feel? Uncomfortable, right? That tiny space of silence feels like a void, like something's wrong. And your brain, it panics. It reaches for the next hit of stimulation. Another scroll, another snack, another show. It's not that pleasure itself is the problem. Pleasure is actually a healthy part of how our brains work. It's a survival tool, a reward mechanism built into our biology. It helps us seek food, connection, safety. But here's the catch. When pleasure becomes the center of our lives, when it turns into the default response to every tiny moment of discomfort, it starts to control us. Aldous Huxley saw this coming almost 100 years ago. While George Orwell warned us about control through fear in 1984, Huxley imagined something even scarier. A world where no one needs to be forced into submission because they're too entertained to care. In Brave New World, people didn't resist because they were too distracted to notice they were even being controlled. Sound familiar? Look around. What do you see? A society obsessed with entertainment. We chase pleasure like it's oxygen. We avoid silence like it's poison. And any moment of discomfort, we smother it instantly with whatever distraction is closest. But here's the real question. Is this actually freedom, or is it something else entirely? In this video, we're going to dig into how modern life uses pleasure as a form of control. How our addiction to feeling good might actually be turning us into something we never imagined, voluntary slaves. If you think you're the one in charge of your mind, keep watching, because what you're about to discover might change that belief completely. You see, perfect control doesn't need walls, it doesn't need chains, it doesn't even need fear. It just needs one thing: pleasure. When pleasure becomes the goal, slavery doesn't look like oppression, it looks like freedom. And that's what makes it so dangerous. This is the world Huxley wrote about. A world where people don't ask questions because they're too busy being entertained. A world where the search for meaning is replaced with a constant stream of distractions. In Brave New World, people are taught from birth to avoid pain, to avoid discomfort, to avoid thinking. And if they feel anything unpleasant, the solution is always the same: a dose of soma, a fictional drug that erases negative feelings and restores instant, shallow happiness. But here's the part that stings. Is that really fiction? Let's take a look at our own lives. When you feel bored, sad, anxious, what's your first instinct? Do you sit with the feeling, try to understand where it's coming from? Or do you immediately reach for something to distract you? A screen, a snack, a scroll, social media, streaming shows, comfort food, online shopping, alcohol, porn, games. The list goes on. We live in the era of instant gratification. You never have to sit with a hard feeling for long. You can drown it out in seconds. And the most dangerous part? It all feels like your choice. No one's forcing you to open TikTok. No one's putting a gun to your head saying, watch another episode. No one's making you eat the donut, buy the thing, scroll the feed. So if you're choosing it, why is it so hard to stop? Because it's not just a habit, it's conditioning. You've trained your brain to chase pleasure and avoid discomfort over and over. And like any muscle, what you don't use, you lose. So you stop being able to sit still. You stop being able to think deeply. You stop being able to be alone with your own mind. And before you know it, you become exactly what Huxley warned us about: a happy servant. Not imprisoned by force, but by comfort. But why does this happen? How exactly does conditioning train us to avoid discomfort, ignore truth, and stay stuck in this never-ending loop of easy pleasure? Let's go deeper. Have you ever wondered why your hand just automatically grabs your phone, even when you know you should be doing something else? Why your brain craves that next notification, that next video, that next little spike of excitement? It's not random. You've been trained from day one. From the moment we're born, we're taught to avoid discomfort. Schools don't encourage curiosity, they reward memorization. Jobs don't teach reflection, they teach output. And entertainment? It gives us 100 ways to avoid reality, 24/7. Add it all up, and what do you get? A society where the biggest threat to freedom isn't some all-powerful dictator. It's disinterest. Disinterest in truth, disinterest in thinking, disinterest in anything that can't be consumed in 15 seconds or less. And again, Huxley nailed it. In Brave New World, people weren't brainwashed with fear. They were taught from childhood to love their chains. They were conditioned through hypnopedia, a made-up method of learning while you sleep. Repeating phrases like, "everyone belongs to everyone," "a gram is better than a dam." Those words were drilled into their subconscious until no one questioned anything. Happiness became obedience. Comfort became religion. Thinking became the enemy. Now think about your life. We don't have sleep teaching, but we do have algorithms. We have content made to hijack your brain. We have companies spending billions to keep your eyes glued to screens, chasing the next hit of dopamine. Every notification, a chemical hit. Every like, a tiny reward. Every short video, a microdose of stimulation that keeps you from having to think. And every time you're rewarded for not thinking, for conforming, you get pulled further into the cycle. The result? A generation of people who can't be alone with their own thoughts, who can't sit in silence, who panic when there's nothing to do. Because we've been trained to run, not from danger, but from discomfort. And here's the truth. You don't need a dictatorship to control people. Not if they're addicted to distraction, not if they're terrified of silence, not if they've forgotten how to think. But this has a cost. A massive cost, because when you run from discomfort for long enough, something else starts to happen. You become weaker, you become easier to manipulate, you become vulnerable. Because pleasure, as nice as it feels, doesn't build strength. Manufactured happiness doesn't build resilience, and a society that never suffers, never struggles, never feels, becomes soft, passive, easy to control. But why? How can the promise of a pain-free life lead to complete submission? Have you ever caught yourself mindlessly picking up your phone, even when you know you shouldn't? You've got something important to do, study, work, focus, but instead, your hand just moves. You check for new messages, a fresh video, or scroll endlessly, waiting for something, anything, to give your brain that little hit of excitement. This isn't just a bad habit, it's the result of something much deeper, conditioning. From the moment we're born, we're taught, both directly and subtly, to run from discomfort. Think about school. Were you ever encouraged to sit with your thoughts, to question the system, to understand your emotions? Or were you rewarded for memorizing facts and following rules? Most of us were trained to perform, not to think. And then, when we enter the job market, it only gets worse. You're not valued for critical thinking. You're valued for output, for productivity. Layer on top of that a society drowning in entertainment. Constant, endless distractions. New shows, new songs, breaking news, hot takes, viral trends. It's all designed to keep your attention bouncing from one dopamine hit to the next. And when everything around you is built to keep you distracted, when do you ever get the chance to truly reflect? And that's the real danger. Because when you don't stop to reflect, you don't question. You stop noticing the system you're in. And as long as you're comfortable, or at least entertained, you never realize how deeply you're being controlled. Aldous Huxley saw this coming. In Brave New World, no one needed to be policed into obedience. They were conditioned to love their servitude. From childhood, their beliefs were shaped through sleep learning, what he called hypnopedia. Messages like, "everyone belongs to everyone else," and "a gram is better than a dam" were repeated so often, people believed them without ever thinking about them. These weren't just slogans. They were mental chains, invisible, yet incredibly strong. Now, fast forward to today. You're not being programmed in your sleep, but you are being programmed. Every time you scroll through Instagram, watch a TikTok, or check your notifications, every ding, every heart, every little like is shaping your behavior. Without you realizing it, you're being trained to crave validation, to avoid discomfort, to seek the path of least resistance. And the scariest part? It all feels like your choice. No one's forcing you to watch 10 straight episodes of a show. No one's making you swipe through dating apps for hours. No one's pointing a gun at your head and saying, "scroll more." But if it's really your choice, why is it so damn hard to stop? Because it's not about force, it's about design. You've been taught, slowly, subtly, to associate discomfort with danger, to escape any moment of silence, to panic when you're alone with your thoughts. And over time, you lose the ability to just be, to be bored, to be still, to be human. Instead, you become exactly what Huxley warned about, a cheerful slave, enslaved not by tyranny, but by pleasure. And the more comfortable you are, the less you question. That's the whole point. But let's dig deeper. Why does this conditioning work so well? Why does it stop us from thinking critically or seeing the bigger picture? Because critical thinking hurts. It forces us to confront uncomfortable truths. It makes us feel uncertain. It challenges our beliefs. And in a world where we're told we should always feel good, where any discomfort is treated like a failure, critical thinking becomes almost unbearable. So instead of thinking, we scroll. We distract ourselves. We medicate with noise. But that comes at a price. When we avoid discomfort, we don't get stronger. We get weaker. And when a society avoids discomfort, it becomes easy to control. There's no need for a dictatorship. No need for censorship. People simply lose interest in questioning the system because they've been conditioned not to care. Think about that. In Brave New World, people weren't fighting the system. They didn't need to. They were happy, or at least they thought they were. Their emotions were flattened, their passions dulled, and their thoughts numbed. As long as they had their soma, their drug of choice, they were content, even when everything about their lives was superficial and meaningless. And here's the chilling part. Today's soma isn't a pill. It's your feed, your phone, your entertainment. That endless stream of validation, distraction, consumption. It's every moment you spend avoiding the discomfort of simply being alone with your own mind. And we've reached the point where discomfort is the enemy. We chase happiness like it's a right, but not real happiness. We chase that surface-level momentary buzz. We've built a world designed to eliminate even the smallest pains. And in doing so, we've lost something far more important. We've lost our resilience. Think about it. When was the last time you really sat with discomfort? Not just boredom, but sadness, frustration, anxiety, without immediately trying to fix it, avoid it, or drown it in distraction? We've been trained to run, but pain isn't always the enemy. Discomfort has a purpose. It teaches us, it shapes us, it forces us to grow. But when every moment of discomfort is anesthetized, we become emotionally fragile. A minor failure feels catastrophic. A delay feels unbearable. Any moment that requires effort, patience, or reflection feels impossible. That's not strength, that's dependence. And this emotional dependence makes us the perfect targets for manipulation. We'll do anything to avoid discomfort, even if it means giving up our freedom. We'll accept surveillance, censorship, even lies, as long as we can keep scrolling, keep consuming, keep feeling something. But it doesn't have to be this way. The truth is, resilience comes from facing discomfort, from enduring it, from learning that you won't die from boredom or loneliness or a hard truth. You'll actually grow stronger. And that's what makes this cycle so dangerous to those in power. Because a society that embraces discomfort, that seeks depth, that values thought over distraction, that kind of society is uncontrollable. That's why it's so important to understand what's really happening. Because the escape from pain has become a new kind of prison, one that doesn't need walls, just a steady supply of cheap pleasure. But there's a way out, and it starts with shifting your focus from pleasure to purpose. Because purpose, unlike pleasure, doesn't vanish the moment the buzz fades. Purpose anchors you. It gives you direction. And more importantly, it gives you a reason to endure discomfort. Because now you're moving towards something that actually matters. So ask yourself, are you chasing pleasure or are you building purpose? In the next part, we'll explore exactly how to break free from this cycle, how to rebuild your mind, and how to step outside the system that thrives on your dependence. Because the real revolution doesn't start out there. It starts in here, with your mind. So how do you actually break free? How do you escape a system designed to keep you distracted, emotionally dependent, and comfortably numb? The answer isn't rebellion in the traditional sense. It's not about throwing your phone in the ocean or running into the woods to live off-grid. It starts smaller than that, much smaller. It starts with awareness, because once you see the system, really see it, you can't unsee it. You start noticing the way you reach for your phone during moments of silence. You start catching yourself when you binge another show, not out of joy, but out of escape. You start realizing how much of your life is spent avoiding something. That's step 1, awareness. Step 2 is intentional discomfort. Yes, intentional. You have to start doing things that feel uncomfortable on purpose. Sit in silence, read something challenging, go for a walk without headphones, have a conversation where you actually listen. These small acts go completely against how the system has trained you to behave. And that's exactly why they're powerful. Because the moment you lean into discomfort, you start to reclaim your agency. Step 3, retrain your brain. You've spent years being conditioned by entertainment, by social media, by advertising, to crave fast pleasure and avoid deep thought. So now you've got to reverse that. Start replacing consumption with creation. Instead of just watching content, try writing something. Instead of scrolling past ideas, sit with them. Think, question, push back, and maybe most importantly, be okay with being misunderstood. This path isn't popular. It's not sexy. People might call you weird for deleting social media or for choosing solitude over constant stimulation. They might even get defensive because your refusal to play the game threatens their comfort too. But don't let that stop you, because here's the truth most people will never tell you. If you want to be free, you have to earn it. You have to fight for your mind every single day, not with anger, not with noise, but with clarity, with courage, with an unshakable commitment to yourself. Because the most radical act in a distracted world is to pay attention, to be fully present, to think deeply, to choose your values, not borrow them, to feel your pain instead of running from it, to sit in silence and ask yourself, what am I doing? Who am I becoming? And is this the life I actually want? That's the revolution. Not some loud protest, not a viral movement, but a quiet return to yourself. Because once you reclaim your attention, your values, your purpose, you become dangerous. Not in a violent way, but in the best way. You become someone who can't be manipulated, someone who doesn't need validation to feel whole, someone who chooses meaning over comfort, someone who sees the system and chooses to rise above it. That's the power of real freedom. And it's not given, it's built. So build it.